Hey, welcome. My name is Daniel Wright, Senior Technical Marketing Engineer at Adobe. I create a lot of videos and tutorials for platform which are available on Experience.ly. Again, recently I had the opportunity to create some content about our new feature, which we'll be talking about today, Use Case Playbooks, available for real-time customer data platform and Journey Optimizer. And I'm excited to welcome our guests for today. So, our first guest, Senior Evangelist for Experience Cloud and Platform, Mr. Rudy Schumpert.
Woohoo! Thanks, Daniel.
And in the other corner, Senior Product Manager and Mastermind behind Use Case Playbooks, Rohit Bazuri. Rohit. All right. So, we like to start our Experience League Live episodes getting to know our guests a little bit. Rudy, we've been teasing the audience about your rational fear of alligators. You want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, long time ago, when I was much younger and much more foolish, we went on a canoe trip to the Okefenokee Swamp, and the alligators on the bank went on into the water and under the canoe, and the scoots on its back rubbed the back of the canoe, and it was like, dit, 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 dit. And I've never been back to that swamp again. Never will.
Yeah, yeah. I always read about people playing frisbee golf in Florida, and the frisbee goes in the lake,
It's gone.
and they go to recover that $15 piece of plastic, and
Nah,
terrible. So
yeah, I'm good.
yeah. Rohit, you love to cook, and your specialty is toast and omelets. Now, I get that omelets require some skill, but toast, really? Is there more to that than putting a piece of bread in the toaster? What are your secrets?
The secret is, I assumed keeping the wife happy was some good toast and omelette. That's all. And it was our honeymoon, and we had traveled somewhere, and I burnt a toast. And unfortunately, I couldn't even, there was no more bread left in the freeze, so I had to serve my wife with the burnt toast and omelette. And that's when my wife had been teasing me for since last 8 years of our marriage that this is your specialty, the toast and the omelette. So that's the story behind toast and omelette.
Okay. Did you manage to save the toast in some way? Did you scrape the burnt part, or
I tried. I guess I had done the job so bad that even after scraping and everything, um, I couldn't save the day.
but you're still married, so
Yeah, I'm still
it's the attempt that counts. All
true.
right. All right, so let's get down to business here. So, Rudy, why don't we start with you? Can you tell us a little bit about use case playbooks? Why did we build it in the first place? What was the problem customers were having that we're trying to solve?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I'm really excited to talk about these use case playbooks today, and excited to see Rohit show them in greater detail afterwards. So, the two major challenges that we're trying to address here is kind of blank page syndrome. So, really trying to help customers be able to fully leverage and discover the power out of Adobe Experience Platform and really get value out of it faster. So, sometimes we have a brand new customer, they get access to all of the toys and tools inside of platform, and they're like a little overwhelmed of what to do first and how to go about it. So this helps them get past that initial hurdle. The other part is just to help grow the end product playbooks, in both quantity and quality. So what we're talking about here is you know trying to help customers get up to speed faster, and to be able to really leverage the value of making more of these products work together. So greater adoption, and greater engagement across the tools.
Hmm.
So let's talk about what they are. So right now, use case playbooks, when you boil them down, they're a curated set of use case templates, and they're sorted out by industry and by application. So you can go in and say, hey, I want to put together a playbook to help me with my abandoned browsing and merchandise for a retail customer, and it'll guide you through the process of how to of creating all of that for you. And what it does is it takes these marketing goals of I want to fix my have a better abandoned cart or abandoned browsing experience, and help it get it into production and working for you much faster. And it's done by these playbooks for each specific use case. And so, like this one here, abandoned browsing and merchandise, customers can look through them, look through the catalog, select the one, take a look at the map, see if they've got the products that are required. This is an important call out because each use case will show you which products are required. So as Rohit is going through the demo here in a few minutes, I want you really to pay attention to this part because this is key. So that way you can see exactly what you already have access to and what you can put into place today.
Mhm.
The next part about that is that I really want customers to pay attention to in the demo is the sandboxes. So we do not automatically put the use case playbooks in your production or current development sandboxes. You're going to have to create a new development sandbox and put the suffix of UCP, use case playbook, in the title for them to show up. The reason is we want you to be able to play with it, get comfortable with it, build up some competencies in working with the playbooks, and then make it super easy for you to move these into your production instances.
Yeah.
And
And that's one of the things I like about the way Rohit and team built this feature, because like I see the playbooks as kind of like, you open up Word and maybe you're writing your resume for the first time and they have a template for a resume. You wouldn't use the templated resume. You've got to customize it so it represents you and what you've done in your career. And similarly, these playbooks, you're going to want to customize them to really fit the needs of your business. So by keeping them in that development sandbox and then going through those steps to move it to your other environments, I think helps enforce good use of them.
right, and it lets customers use it in a safe environment. I mean, in a safe sandbox, which is what it's designed for, is to be able to really test the system out without worrying about messing up anything in production. So it gives them the greatest flexibility. And then after they've deployed it in that development sandbox and they're comfortable with it, this bill of materials page or this details page will list out the journeys, the schemas, the segments, all the different messages that you may have built, and it allows you to publish it in a different sandbox. So even though you have to build things in that development sandbox, the Rohit and team have built in that capability so that you can easily publish all these objects into more of a production sandbox. And
Mhm.
so as he goes through the demo here in just a minute, I really want customers to think about as they're watching this, these are the things I want them to have in their mind as they're thinking this of like, well, how does this apply to me? How can I use it? Is that we're really trying to, help you get the maximum value out of your investment by making implementation of some of these use cases much faster. We want to be able to demonstrate the value of what you've already invested in to your stakeholders much faster. Also, being able to take these technical use cases or these marketing use cases and have the technical part done in a large part for you really helps build more collaboration between IT and marketing. And again, this just really helps customer expand the adoption. And the more you use the different features and functionality within platform and the various products, the more benefit you're going to get from it. And so that's what we want. We want customers to maximize their current investment with Adobe and to get the most value out of it. So I'm super excited that Rohit is now going to take it away and show us all these cool features. But keep all these talking points in mind as you're looking at it, because he's going to show you some really cool stuff here.
Awesome. Let's see, Rohit.
Alrighty. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone, from wherever you are joining in the world. So this is a net new product from Adobe Use Case Playbook. So what I'm going to do is going to do a quick demo for all of you, and then we'll keep on talking more about it, right? So this is the home screen of Use Case Playbooks. On the left hand side, you can see various filters like product required, AJO, artist CTP, industries. So we are coming up with three industries right now: retail, sports and live entertainment, travel and hospitality, and various marketing channels by which you can filter.
So
Uh,
Rohit, just to ask, so you have those three industries. What if I'm a customer who works in the insurance industry? Does that mean I can't start using playbooks yet? What's my or is there some way that I could use them and get value out of them?
Absolutely, great question actually. So there are two parts to the answer. So if you look at the nature of use cases that we have today, some are very industry specific and some are very generic in nature. For example, abandoned cart, abandoned browse. While we have given them an industry flavor, but we know when we were doing the beta program, there was a large insurer which was part of the beta program, and they had taken one of these common use cases. If I remember correctly, it was abandoned cart, and then they customized um, the journey, the schema, and the segments according to their requirements, and they were able to play around with it, take it to their development environment and to production subsequently. Um, so what I learned from there is that while it might not suit a specific industry completely, but then even though a particular playbook is not available for a corresponding industry, it definitely still gives a jump start to customers in those industries.
Mm-hmm. And do you plan to add additional industries to the playbooks?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I think we are already working towards healthcare, commerce, and I think retail, more retail use cases. These are the industries that are work in progress right now for us. But we continue to have more industries added and all of it subsequently to this playbooks. What we also intend to do subsequently is introduce some kind of authoring capabilities or SDK, whereby we want to empower our customers, partners, um, to be able to bring their own playbook, right, and their own playbook, and take it to various spaces within their company, organization, and so on. That's something that we want to do subsequently.
Oh, that's great. And you know what? Somebody had just asked that in the chat. So it's great to have that one answered. And just a reminder, anyone who's listening live, feel free to ask questions, and we'll try to answer them for you here. So cool. Yeah. What's next?
Alrighty.
What are you going to show us next?
Okay, alrighty. So yeah, so I talked about the filter functionality. You can search for specific playbooks, sort playbooks by name. You have a grid view and the list view. All of this cool functionalities out here. And then you have two types of playbooks. So for activation is typically all the artist CDP playbooks. We have named them for activation. So let me click on one of the playbook tiles. On clicking that, it will take us to the playbook display page. So on the playbook display page, you can learn more about the playbook, basically what this playbook does, what marketing goal it supports, which industry, which is the targeted persona, and what products are required to make this playbook work. Now the good part here is even if someone does not have the corresponding product license, for example, an AGO license, which is needed to make this playbook work, they would still be able to browse through all the content in a playbook display page. They would not be able to create an instance though. Um, so when I talk about create instance, basically it's a CTA which will help you instantiate this particular playbook. Think of it as a particular version of the playbook that you own, right? So once you click on create instance, you get a set of AEP objects that gets generated, like segments, schemas, journeys, all of them. And then if you want to make edits to the journey according to your company's requirements, you can edit it and save the instance with a name that you are able to identify, so that again and again, whenever you need to refer it back, you can go back and open the instance directly. um, Here we have something called as a mind map, and mind map is basically, it's something which helps the to understand the overall journey that a customer will undertake. And it also helps to let the marketeer and the data engineer or the martech persona, both of them, come onto the common page in terms of what they expect out of the use case to do. Just to give you a small example, while our use case supports out of the box that if Sarah abandons browsing for 30 minutes, then she qualifies to be part of the segment or audience, which will then be receiving some kind of communication suggesting that, hey, you have left browsing a particular page for a particular item, and so on and so forth. But depending on your company philosophies, the nature of business, you might want to change that to like 24 hours, 48 hours, 2 hours, whatever is needed, right? So these are the fine nuances that you can finalize here.
Yeah, I love this mind map feature because I think too often a lot of confusion when folks are trying to implement journeys and the segments is they're not on the same page of exactly what they mean for the particular use case. So the way that this breaks it out with Sarah browsed the website, then she abandoned the browsing, and then they get a reminder message makes it nice and clear for folks whether they're more on the marketing side or they're more on the technical side. Um, I love the visual representation. So the more visual things like that, and the more that can make it more clear of what is being addressed, the better.
Yeah, it's probably easy to take a screenshot of that too and put it in a, PowerPoint if you got to present it to other people at your company. Just a quick visualization of what it's going to do. When I first saw that, I was like, okay, somebody browses the website and then you're able to send them an email. I'm guessing that there's some sort of authentication required in order to be able to know what their email address is, and um, that will be something that some maybe it's the identity graph and platform, so we can link their Experience Cloud ID on the website to their email address, so that something like that can be done, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have intentionally kept the technical details out of the loop here, just to make different kinds of personas like marketing also comfortable when they are looking at these use cases. This would be probably one of the first instances where they can actually, look at these use cases, discover different playbooks, different kind of use cases that they want to do for their organization, and even play around with those, test those use cases. All of those is what they can do subsequently.
Mhm.
Cool. Moving on from here, so you have some more details around the playbook itself. So, who is the target audience? What marketing channels? For example, here the journey addresses all the three marketing channels: email, SMS, and push. And then finally, you see what are the technical assets that get generated for this particular playbook. So, for example, here one journey, one audience, two schemas, customer profile, and event schema, and three messages, right? So I've already pre-created some instances. So let me click on one of those just to save some time. Right. So, like I have already said, that these are the various technical objects that gets created for this particular playbook. You have the journey, you have the schemas, the customer profile schema, the event schema, and the audiences, right? So you can, on clicking on each of this, it takes you to the journey. This one click takes you to the audience, and subsequently when you click on the schemas, it takes you to the respective schema pages. I've already pre-opened the journey, right? So if I want to, let's say, edit something in the journey, of course, it would not be 100% of what I want to do. So I can make changes to the journey, and then save some specifics around it. And once I do that, I can actually come back and save this instance with a name with which I identify, right? I can write some
Mm,
notes as well. I changed this aspect, I changed the journey, or whatever I want to save as notes, right? And save this instance.
yeah. Rohit, there's a question that came in related to this. Maybe there's two ways of answering it. It looks like Karuna is someone who maybe uses a shared partner sandbox. So we when you have an account, like, is it possible to? We know you need to create a new sandbox with UCP in the name. Is it possible to create multiple playbooks sandboxes in a single account, or can you only create one playbook sandbox per account?
That's a great question, and I will park that for a couple of minutes. But I want to
Okay.
flash an important point that I think we have not talked much about earlier. I think Rudy briefly touched upon it, but I think I should talk more about it. So one important aspect is, unlike all other AEP products, use case playbooks is not going to be available out of the box in your normal development and your normal production sandboxes. What we expect, and it's something by choice, because we are generating schemas and all of it. We don't want the schemas and all that we generate to mess around with your union schema in the development sandbox, or your union schema in your production sandbox of our customers. So what our customers need to do to be able to use case playbooks is, take one of the empty dev sandboxes that they have, and they basically need to do three things, and it's up here in the documentation that we have. uh, they need to name the sandbox with a suffix dash ucp, and then they need to do some settings, some permissions and all that they need to provide. And then subsequently they need to set up the AGO surfaces. If they are looking at only RTCDP licenses that they have, they probably don't need to set up the AGO surfaces. But if they are also looking at AGO playbooks and they have AGO licenses, it is advised that they also set up the AGO surfaces. So the three things they need to do: name the sandbox with suffix dash UCP, uh, look at the documentation and do all the settings, and then ultimately set up the surfaces, the AGO surfaces, right? So once you are able to do the three things, your use case playbook is now available. It would be available on your left panel like this. On clicking on this, you arrive at the use case playbook homepage. Now, one important aspect is, while all these objects are getting generated in your inspirational sandbox, which you just created for your organization, and you can, of course, just to answer the question, you can, of course, if you have more than one empty dev sandboxes and you want to utilize them for creating or configuring use case playbooks, of course you can do that. There is no restriction on the number of sandboxes on which you can enable use case playbooks,
Okay.
right?
And then if
Yeah,
if 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 say Rudy and I were sharing a sandbox, the other way to say share responsibly is to do what you showed a few minutes ago. If Rudy creates an instance of abandoned browse, he should
right,
rename it, and I should
right,
name mine to indicate, hey, this is mine. And I think that
right.
when you create an instance, it will create a new instance of, in this case, the journey and the audience. So maybe we should rename those. But the schemas, again, say Rudy and I created this exact same playbook. The schemas that are two instances would use would be the same schema, right? It's not creating the same schemas over and over
No.
again per
Yeah.
instance.
Yeah. Right, that's correct. So journeys and audiences and destinations in case of RTCTP playbooks, they are created over again and again, but schemas are shared across between playbooks. So let's say you make some changes to the schemas, Daniel, and add some fields to it. So when Rudy tries to, recreate some instances or create some new instances, then those new instances will also leverage the schema that you have added some fields to.
Hmm.
Okay. Uh, cool. Alrighty. So one important aspect now is that we need to ultimately, our aim is to, take all these objects to our development sandbox, because we are in the inspirational sandbox. And, let's try doing that. So there is a CTA here where we can create a package directly which only contains these objects that we just generated and maybe edited for our instance. So the package is successfully created. Let's go to Sandbox.
And we should mention it because packages are a relatively new feature. It came out last fall for a platform, and the idea behind the packages is to facilitate moving things from one of your sandboxes to another sandbox,
Right,
which is ideal for use case playbooks because that's the whole point. You start in the inspirational playbook sandbox, and then you can use this feature to move it to another development sandbox.
Yeah, and if
right,
folks are
absolutely,
looking for more information on that on Experience League, they're going to look up Sandbox tooling, correct? Is it?
absolutely. Sandbox tooling is the related product that you need to look up.
Okay, so you've created this package now with that instance of your
Right.
playbook.
Right. So one thing I want to talk about is you need to look at the status here. In case it's successful, you will see that it is published. In case it's failed, then you will see that it is the status shows is cancelled subsequently, right? So you need to ensure that the status is published. That means the package is now available to be imported in your development sandbox. So let me try and import this package into the development sandbox. So yeah, and this is the package name. So what happens is when we are importing to a different sandbox, you calculate all the dependencies, right? So the first thing that you need to do, without which you can't proceed, is you would need to map the two schemas from use case playbooks, right?
Hmm.
The profile schema and the event schema, both of them, to your development sandbox schema of the choice, whatever schema you want to use. So in this
And
case, yeah, go ahead.
well, to for the playbook sandbox, in order to create everything uniformly as templates, you sort of have some standard schemas that are part of that sandbox. But you had mentioned to me in one of our calls how during the beta for this feature, the customers in the beta, their schemas were very different,
Yeah,
and so this is a really important step in the process to customize the playbook for you. It's not just about modifying the audience and the journey, but this process here of mapping things to the way you build your own schemas.
right, absolutely. So what we recognized when we were doing the beta for this product is that data engineers gave us a feedback that Rohit, this is all great that you are generating all these objects out of the box and giving us this template, but as data engineers we have to rebuild all of it in our development sandbox, because our schema is going to be very different from the schema which is primarily the Adobe standard field and field groups based schema that you have used to develop these playbooks, right? So the time to value will not actually, we will not get the actual time to value because we will have to recreate all the objects. So that's when we thought, let us bring this new feature called data awareness, where we first step we do is map the schemas to the development sandbox schemas of the customer, and subsequently, the journeys, the segments, all of them get auto converted to the new schema that the customer has just mapped to. So that's how they save a lot of time, and we get actual uh, you know time to value kind of benefit.
And I like here in the mapping where it doesn't show you the full list, but just the fields that are relevant for the use case that you're putting together. I think it's a lot less confusing that way, that you're not
Yeah.
overwhelmed with irrelevant fields. Because I know most of the schemas I've seen have way more than three
Right.
items, but I
Right.
really like what y'all have done here with limiting it to just what is critical for this use case to work.
Absolutely, that's a great point. So we thought that to make it computationally less intensive, because if you go for typical schemas, it will have a lot more fields than 3 or 4 or 5 fields, right? So we thought to make it computationally less intensive, it's practical that we just map the fields that are used in objects like the segments, the journeys, and all of them, and not map all the fields. That ways we save on a lot of computational resources as well as the time to do the mapping. The good part is, let's say you make changes to the schema in the inspirational sandbox where you have use case playbooks, and you want to import your own instance again for the same playbook. Let's say you have already imported that playbook and you want to get your another instance, right? So the mapping will be done once again, so it's not like once done and the mapping will not be done for that playbook again ever, right? So every time you perform an import of a package containing the AEP objects for that particular playbook, the mapping exercise would be done all over again.
So it seems like there's a couple of places where you can customize these templates. You can customize them in the playbook sandbox, and then you can customize them further once you import them into one of your real development sandboxes. So I guess probably every customer will have a different preference for how they do that.
Right, right, absolutely. And one more thing that I wanted to point out is we also encountered some scenarios where, our use cases from the playbooks, they had a certain type of fields or certain fields which was not present in customers' chosen schema, the union schema. So what we suggested the customer, or they would typically get a prompt that, you have fields missing in the chosen schema, and you need to go back to your schema. In the schema page, basically you need to click on the schemas tab here. You need to go back and add respective fields to the schema to which you are trying to do the mapping, and then come back and continue with the process. This flow will actually pause. Okay, you will not be able to go ahead. There were some suggestions when we are building the product on, and we were in two minds whether should we give an option to be able to, for customers to be able to add fields directly on the mapping page itself. But then we subsequently decided against it, because what we discovered is that um, not everyone in the customers org do have permissions to add fields to the schema. So we want them to go through the process of getting the right approvals from their respective responsible people, and be able to add the fields to the schemas and come back and do the mapping. That's the idea.
Rohit, there's a question from Jamie about the question is, will personalization implementations and templates and journeys be updated as part of this mapping, or will I need to go into the templates after import and update those references? And I'm guessing Jamie is asking about like if you wanted to show like the name of the product that the person abandoned browse on, the personalization within the email message that is sent to them. Um,
Right.
do all of those references get updated in the mapping process?
I guess no. So, in the specific email template, we strongly recommend customers that they should go and change the content of the email according to the requirements.
Mhm.
And this is intentional because what we have observed is we can give one template, but customers typically have their own standard template, own logo, and their own lingo on which they want to use to write an
Mhm.
email to customers, right? So that's intentional, that we want customers to visit the email template and all of it, the message template and all of it, and be able to edit it. But the
Oh,
journey and all, they change. Yeah.
so like, and maybe you could just open up the journey that that instance created if we're done it in this screen, and just take a look at some of the. So this will create like an email template for the sake of the of showing the use case. But what you're saying is, hey, a customer is not going to actually use this email, but we need to provide something to give them a sense of the message.
Right.
So gotcha.
Well, folks need
Right.
to remember that this is a template, and it provides a lot of the building blocks. But absolutely, I think that's a great call out there, and I'm glad that Jamie asked that question so that it surfaced up during this. Is that and it does need to be modified, and that's another reason why this isn't put straight into production. That it's put into that inspirational sandbox, so it gives you time to work out all of these wrinkles and to fine tune it and make it perfectly suited towards your business and your company and your messages the way that you want them to sound. Because like Rohit said, everybody's going to have a different style and
Yeah.
philosophy and approach to the messages.
Well, coincidentally, Rudy, I have a side hustle doing mail order indoor plant e-commerce, so I get to use these templates out of the box. So that's great for
Uh,
me.
there you go.
Getting there.
All righty. We have a success here. So the package import has been successful. In case, I just want to also talk about how do you identify what are the causes of failure in case you see this cancel status. So the ideal way to do is click on this view job details, and then on clicking this, it takes you to a button, and you can see more details around what is the root cause of the problem that you encountered. So typically, if you encounter some issue and you are trying to raise a bug or an issue, then the right way to do that is click on view job details, identify what is the root cause, like go to the JSON file and look at what is the root cause, what is the inline message that you see, take a screenshot of that and send that across to us. That will help us as a product team to actually identify what is the potential problem that you might be facing.
Mm.
I have a question. You went through the create package screen pretty quickly while we were talking about other stuff. I want to know if before you create that package and bundle it up, let's say you create the instance, but you decide that you want a couple of extra journeys in there, you want to change the logic around. So if you created some objects that are not part of the objects that are created with the instance, so let's say he's selling those plants, but he wants four more different types of journeys in there. Can you add those to the package when you're building that before you push it to production, or does it have to be just the ones created from the instance?
Yeah. So there are two parts. To the question, and let me answer them. So first is, can you edit the journey in the use case playbook instance? The answer is of course yes. You can edit the journey to whatever extent you want to. You can save the journey, right? And then once you create a package, you get the edited journey that you have just created or edited, whatever, right? Now the second part of the question is, do you have the possibility to add more journeys to this package? Basically, basically on the uh, bill of material page? Let me just go back. So the answer to that is, as of now, no. We don't provide that option for you to be able to add more field, or let's say more objects, technical objects, to this particular bill of material instance for which you are creating a package. But what you can definitely do is, you can create more journeys, save those journeys, right, with a different name. And you can of course go to sandboxes. And there is another way. Now we have released this sandbox tooling project. I don't know if you guys are aware or not. So using that sandbox tooling, you don't get this CTA straight out of the box, but definitely you get an option to create a package and then import the objects. So using sandbox tooling, you can definitely, create any number of package and perform import of any number of packages to your target sandbox. So that's definitely there.
Hmm.
Great.
I'm guessing one of the most common issues, like moving things from the playbook sandbox to another development sandbox, is the user permissions, right? Because I noticed, like, in order to create an instance, I needed to have user permissions to create schemas, create journeys, create the messages and audiences. And I'm guessing if you then try to import to a different sandbox, you would need to have those same permissions in the sandbox you want to move to.
Typically, yes, that's how it needs to be configured. But in the long term product roadmap, we are trying to, make it much more easier. Right now, like, our users need to do specific settings, and that kind of needs to reflect in their target sandbox as well in most cases. But I mean, 6 months down the line, this entire process will become much more easier, and it will not
Yeah.
be this complicated.
Yeah. I was just wondering about like best practices for setting the permissions, and maybe the best way is if you have, for people who are doing the migrations and who, have lots of privileges in the main development sandbox, maybe the role that gives them those permissions, you just add the use case playbook sandbox to that role so they can do the same things in playbooks that they need to do in the main dev sandbox. And if you want to give other people limited rights to sandboxes to say just view things, you could create a separate role with those limited permissions. So lots of people can go to the playbooks and play around. And then
Yeah,
the people who actually export them and import them to another sandbox, or they just have one role that has the all of the same permissions laid out to make it easier to manage that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and all of those steps, I believe, are detailed on Experience League in the documentation as far as creating the sandbox, going through all those steps, just like you did. So
Yeah,
we'll make sure that the links to those are kind of in the show notes or the post that usually goes up after that. So the folks that are listening along or watching this later, you know, that there'll be an easy to find resource for that. But yeah, I know it may seem like there's a lot of steps, but all of those are detailed really great in the documentation. So
Hmm.
absolutely,
There was
absolutely.
Rohit, there was a question. It was about the licenses, and then I have a follow up question to that. So the question was: is access to the playbooks dependent on the product license? Meaning, can I only access this if I have an AEP product license?
Um, the answer is no. You would be able to access playbooks even if you don't have licenses. So by that I mean, you can click, you can see these playbooks, you can see the playbook tiles, you can identify what all playbooks are present. Um, Once you click on a specific playbook display page, though, you will see that if you don't have the license, then this create instance CTA is grayed out, and you will not be able to create instances, right?
Okay.
You will
But
also not be able to see any specific instances for this playbook.
okay.
So yeah, and you
But,
will, you
but
will get a notification.
you would
Sorry.
need to have Journey Optimizer or Real Time CDP, right? One of those two.
Yes, you would
Like
either need.
if you just had Adobe Analytics, for example, you wouldn't be able to access playbooks. You need to have Journey
Yeah,
Optimizer or real-time CDP?
yeah. I mean, the answer to that is you will still be able to set up playbooks. You will still be able to, see this display page, and you can click on individual playbook tiles, but that's about it. You will not be able to create any instances or nothing more than this. You will just be able to see this page, and that's about it.
Okay. So you need to have one of those two products, but if you only had real-time CDP, you'd still be able to see the Journey Optimizer playbooks and poke around.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so my follow-up question, looking at the gallery page here, I see there are two playbooks that look kind of similar at the top, the abandoned browsing merchandise and abandoned browsing merchandise for activation. What and then the next set I see has a similar abandoned browse product for activation. What's the difference between the
Oh,
two of
great
those
question.
with similar names?
Yeah. So, merchandise is a keyword that we have used for sports and live entertainment industry, and then product is something which is for retail industry,
Okay.
and then for activation is a adjective or verb that we have used for all RTCDP playbooks. So across the board, if you see that a playbook is ending with the suffix for activation, that means this is more of an RTCDP kind of playbook.
Hmm. So if you wanted to do like a, more multi-channel abandoned browse, you would say to like send email messages and also do display advertising. You would
Yeah.
want to create instances of both
Yeah.
versions of that playbook. Hmm.
Right.
Cool.
Right. Absolutely.
And oh, there was one thing I wanted to mention with the journey optimizer playbooks. There is that step that you mentioned to create the channel configurations in journey optimizer in this sandbox. Um, but for customers, maybe you don't do push messaging yet. Maybe you only do SMS and email. Um, only configure the channels that you use. If you only configured two out of the three, when you
Right.
click that create instance button, you'll get a little message saying, indicating that you don't have all three channels configured. That's okay. You can dismiss that and it will still create all of the objects in the playbook. But if you open the journey and looked at it, you'd see that the push message had been created, but it's not fully wired up because there wasn't that channel configuration for it to link to. So you would just want to, remove that branch of the journey, that had the push stuff, and you could still, just get rid of that from the journey and use it, for your push and email messages. So don't be
Right.
scared off by that warning. Um,
Yeah. I
uh,
just wanted to add maybe one last point, and it is, so with use case playbooks, when you try to create a package, right, or rather import a use case playbook package, you would only be able to import it to the development sandbox of yours. You would not be able to directly import it to your production sandbox, and that's intentional. The entire life cycle, the way we envisage most of the customers taking a playbook instance to prod, would be you take objects from a playbook instance that you have modified to your requirements, then you map the schemas, and now you have your journey segments, all of them available in your development sandbox. You test them out with your own data in your environment, in your development environment, and like you do, once you are satisfied with the testing, then you move them to production, right? You move them to your prod sandbox. So that's kind of the life cycle we also want customers to take with all the objects and all the playbook instances which are present for use case playbooks as well. And that's why it's kind of that you cannot like jump directly to the prod sandbox, but you need to go from the
hmm.
use case inspirational sandbox to the development sandbox, and from development to the prod sandboxes.
Okay. So you anticipate customers doing that end-to-end testing of, with their
Right.
sample profiles, actually generating the emails, do those after you've migrated the playbook to your own development sandbox. Okay, cool.
Absolutely. Yes.
Jamie is really excited about being able to create their own playbooks. Are you able to comment on an ETA for that?
Yeah. So sometime this year, but we don't know exactly when, but definitely sometime this year we will release that feature.
Hmm. Cool. And then Jamie was also wondering, are there any playbooks that use campaigns instead of journeys, or?
Not yet. We right now have only journeys and RTCDP
Hmm.
playbooks.
Hmm. And I wanted to mention too, because it seems like Jamie has a lot that they want to see in playbooks. In the Experience League communities area, you can post questions and discussions, and I think there's also a type idea. So any of those, product feature ideas that you have, it's a good idea to post it there. And I believe the community managers then will scrape them and create tickets from them. Um, Envy is asking, what if my instance didn't have available attributes as per the playbook set up? What should I do in that case before importing the package? Do I need to update my schemas accordingly?
Yeah, I think if you know your schemas like the back of your hand, of course, as a data engineer, you would know. And when you are looking at a particular playbook instance, and you look at the schema and see that, you know, let's say the journey or the segment utilizes a particular field. Let's say, for example, I'm just making it up. Let's say, your journey depends on the date of birth of the customer. So if the date of birth is greater than, let's say, 30 years, then only they qualify for a particular segment, right? Then, and if you don't have a date of birth, let's say, in your um, union schema today, then you may want to, go back and add that field, and then, perform the import of the package from use case playbooks. Like that, you will be able to complete the entire um, import process in just one shot. So that's definitely a good practice.
And
Thanks for bringing.
yeah, and I recall you had mentioned earlier that you specifically didn't allow moving a new field into the other development sandbox, right?
Yes.
You do have to go to your other development sandbox, add that date of birth field in order to be able to
Right.
then you would map
Right.
on that
Right.
import step. Yeah,
Right.
that
Right.
yeah, that's actually it's a yeah, good question there. Um, VJ is asking, we see mostly use cases around abandoned process and get a message. Do you have any other types of use cases?
Yeah, quite a lot, quite a lot. So I would strongly urge you. There are more than 45 use cases that we have right now. Um, so I would urge you to install the product and use it and take a look at it and give us more feedback. But there are
Yeah.
different, much more different categories of playbooks.
Yeah, and I think one thing that will help with that is if like use that industry filter, because as you pointed out, like you'll notice that for abandoned browse there might be three very similar looking versions of that, one for each industry. So if you put the industry filter on, you'd probably get a sort of remove those duplicates, as it were.
Right, absolutely. I strongly advocate that. So if you are looking for particular, even if you are not from a particular industry and still exploring playbooks, I would still ask you to filter by specific industries and take a look at the playbook gallery page. That's a very good way to go about it.
Um, All right. I think I think we got through most of the questions.
Yep.
Um, So why don't we move on to our unrelated cool tip? And I believe Rudy will be contributing our unrelated cool tip today.
Yeah, and I'm awfully fond of the travel cool tips. And so whenever I travel for work or with the family, I always take the little foam earplugs because sometimes hotels can be noisy, so can other family members. So it's always super handy to have. But the cool tip is these little foam earplugs work perfectly to fit in the little peephole in the hotel doors. So if you're a little paranoid like I am sometimes, it's a great little thing. You have these. I'd like to apologize to all the hotel rooms where I've inadvertently left these because I always forget to remove them as I'm checking out. But super handy. If you didn't bring any of these with you and you're still curious, you want to block that hole, I find the sugar packets or the sweetener packets that they always stick in the coffee machine fit in that little peephole as well.
So that's great. That's great to know, Rudy. So if we're all at Summit in a couple months and we want to mess with you and we know where your room is, we just show up with a clothes hanger and pop that out each night, and you'll be wondering what's going on with that,
That's
and
disturbing.
you'll have
That's
an
disturbing on
updated
many levels.
tip. Your your workaround for that.
I will
Your
definitely.
new and improved peephole blocker for our next episode post summit. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming on to Experience League, watching this episode of Experience League Live. Again, all of the documentation and tutorial videos for use case playbooks are on Experience League. And thanks again to our guests, Rudy and Rohit.
Thanks, everybody.